Hi, my name is Onyeka Chiro and I'm a consultant at 19060659 Horizons Consulting, and I'm here to present my consultancy work done for my client, Eminent Estate. And this consultancy work is titled Reducing Utilities Costs for Property Managed by my client. This presentation will take a format beginning from the project phases, and we'll move to the introduction and the context of work, and then we'll talk about the aims and objectives of the project, and then the recommended solutions will be presented, and then we'll move to the solution slash model testing plan evaluation and output, and then we would discuss and see the data visualization from our findings and the consultancy process, and then the interpretation of the data and how it compares to the initial hypothesis and assumptions I had from the start of the project. And then we move to the adjustments and possible conclusions about the solution that we proposed, which will also include next steps for the client. And then we'll look at the client feedback, then the key lessons I've learned in this whole process and journey, and then the reflection I have for this project, and that will be the structure for this presentation. The phases from the start of the project, we had to start. The project started with client introduction, where I had to meet the client, describe the nature of project we want to do, what the scope is, what the goal is, what we want to achieve, come up with this project plan, and design the Gantt chart, communication plan, the hierarchy structure, and then we moved on to business analysis, which is where, using the client's data, I analyzed all of the situations around the client's business and as concerning utilities costs to understand the current state of things. This was presented in the second phase of the project, which is called the block 2 of the project. And then from there, still in that block 2, I did some literature analysis, and then some business analysis as well to understand the situation of things. And then it moved on to the third phase of the project, which includes the design of a methodology, the approach, the philosophy to which the project is handled, and how solutions can be tested and implemented. And then that same methodology also included ethical considerations as regards data generation, data gathering, and then questionnaire sharing, which was used in this project. And then the fourth part of this project, which is what this presentation is all about, is the final presentation and recommendation to the client. The next thing, now the introduction and context of work. Like I've said, my client's name is Eminent Estate, and my client is a housing and property manager based in the United Kingdom, based in Luton, in this United Kingdom. It was founded sometime around 2004, and this is the current situation of the client. First of all, what to notice from this is that the houses were named not with the address, but because of ethical consideration, we named it just in a random name. But then houses are named in an ascending order based on the number of units of houses, which means that, for example, that house 1 and 2 have more units than house 23, for instance. However, what I found is that the size of unit do not solely determine the cost of the utility bill. So one would assume initially that if the units is more, the number of units in the house is small, therefore the utility bill will be more. But no, we found that is not exactly the case with the client's situation. So we also found that, as expected, we found that gas is one of the biggest drivers of cost for utilities for utilities in the client's project. We also noticed that, as also expected, again, electricity is the next biggest driver, and then followed by Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi, and water is quite a bit cheap, But then we still have to reduce this cost, to make sure that the client can, keep costs minimal. Now, what's more is that the House of Commons has already stated that cost is going to go up for energy. As much as we say, what I found right now is that the client's already spending a lot of money on cost, and then not cost is not driven by the number of units, based on number of units per house. The House of Commons and the government is also saying that cost is may likely go up, and as we have seen in real situation, that the cost of energy to manage a home and manage housing properties is going up. So the House of Commons we has already stipulated that this way, which brings more of the need for why the client has to find ways to reduce the cost they spend on utility cost for the houses that they manage. So the aim of this project is to reduce the cost, like I earlier stated, the cost of utilities managed by the project. And then there are three objectives for this that was focused on throughout the whole work. The first objective is to first of all investigate what the associated cost is. Initially the client wanted us to include the cost of maintenance as well, but as time went on, that which we'll discuss later on in this presentation, that was not very feasible. And then the first objective is to investigate the associated costs, like we saw in the previous slide. We saw some of the associated costs, and then explore the patterns and trends that could be harnessed, and then recommend solutions on how this cost can be reduced. If you look at this map, you will see the concentration of the client's properties. So the client has properties mostly in Luton and the environments of Luton. So this is what this map shows. Now, so these are the recommended solution for the client. However, the first, the second, the third, and the fourth solution are capital intensive solutions. So we are strongly recommending the first and the second because they are cost effective, or they have minimal cost, and they are very we found that it's quite if implemented, it's going to yield result. The second and the third involves retrofitting. Retrofitting is about installation of energy saving devices and possible total overhaul of some of the properties. Now the client have properties that are not very energy efficient, and so if we go with that option, it would incur a lot of cost. And since we, as a consultant, one of our priorities is that we want to save costs for the client. And the other one is to bring solar systems into the house, such that at some point the client might begin to reduce dependency on the national grid of energy, of electricity, for example. But that also is cost effective. So what we are going with is the video instruction to occupant, and this is inspired especially from Bedea and Kara, who explained that the consumption, the utilities consumption in properties is driven by the behavioral pattern of the occupants. So this video instruction implies, coming up with some sort of short bite-sized video tools on how to instruct people on how to save on cost or save on utilities costs as they occupy the house. And the idea of this is to give them this video prior to their moving in. And then the second one is posters, which you can call stickers, where we put stickers on appliances and maybe switches to remind people, because sometimes people are not aware, and because the client is paying the bill, the housing is usually bill inclusive. Clients paying the bill, they just sometimes they don't take these things as priority. So these are the two solutions we are suggesting for the client. here's an example of what the suggestion could be. And if you see on this slide, so you see the switch, and there's a small tag on that saying save energy, turn off light after use. You could put something like this somewhere around the house in a less conspicuous manner. See a switch says switch off after use. Thank you. And then you see the washing machine, so some sort of design and instruction saying you can wash at 30 degrees, instead of using the 90 and all that degrees to wash clothes, because the more you burn the heat, the more the energy goes. And then maybe some sort of sticker around the washing machine to say wash more, and then wash more instead of washing just few clothes at the time. And so we have already tested this solution. So here the testing plan that was followed. So the testing plan, the survey was carried out to determine the effectiveness of the solution, and this survey included principally students who were living in the UK. The reason for this is that almost all the clients occupants are students, and mostly international students. So we surveyed people, and most of them are students who are living in the UK, since the client's property is in the UK. And this map shows the location the respondents are based. And if you notice, this is the initial location we showed earlier, this detailing where the client's properties are. But then the survey covered much more than that place, and then other areas in Liverpool, around Cardiff and Bristol. So I like to believe that this survey was encompassing both, it captures the demography that was required. So that was the plan that was carried out, and it captured the audience that would give better feedback. So this is the process that was followed. The survey was formulated, the survey was tested, and then survey was tested, was sort of tried to see that it was effective and functional. It was reviewed and it was distributed to the demographic, like explained, the sample population, and then after which data was collected and cleaned, and then the insight and recommendation was followed. That's the testing plan that was done. Then the criteria set for this testing plan, is the response rate. And according to Phil's aim, we would suggest that 48% survey response is sufficient. We found that we got almost all the response that we got is about 105% above. You needed 105% response rate above the initial plan we had. However, after data cleaning, after removing some of the incomplete responses, we ended at 64% response rate, which is still good compared to what Fields and Ames has already suggested. Now, the validity, the criteria set is the validity of how valid would this testing be. I've said it like that it captures the respondent, it captures the demography for which it's valid to make conclusions on, and the results validates. The results are, the questionnaires were designed such that the result could be seen either to validate or to invalidate the solution. The feasibility, we check the another criteria is to see the feasibility of the solution. Is it cost effective? Yeah, we've discussed that it's cost effective. Is it accomplishable? Yes, it's accomplishable. And is it measurable? It's quite easy to measure the success of this. It's just simply to measure if your utility bills are going down or not. So it's very measurable. Now the evaluation of the testing plan. So the evaluation is analysis of the test responses. So the way we designed to evaluate is to analyze the test responses and to benchmark the analysis, which are the findings, with the project goals initially stated, and then to benchmark the findings with the initial hypothesis we have for this project. We'll see that in our data analysis section. And the considerations for adjustments, and then we'll see the considerations for adjustments and enhancement during the evaluation. And then the output, we want to if they confirm the solution is a valuable strategy or a viable strategy to work on, to implement for our client, and if it will reduce spend on utilities cost. So here's one of what we found out. we found that the test shows that that the strategies, the two strategies, will be effective. 60.5% at least believe that it is very effective, which some of them believe that it's highly effective. Although so those 9% believe that it's ineffective, but we can conclude that for this demography of people to have responded in the 65% manner, then it is going to be very effective. It's going to be very effective. But however, 16% of people do not they're not sure. They're not sure if the solution is going to work. Again, we also found out that up to 50 pounds could be saved per household per month if these solutions are implemented. And now this is coming from people who are currently implementing energy saving measures, some of them in a very strict manner, some of them in a less strict manner, And then again, we got responses to say that 94% of the respondents say that the posters, the stickers, yes, they will recommend stickers and posters, and then 84% of the respondents say that yes, they will recommend the video instructions. Now this confirms one of the hypotheses of this project, that cost can be minimized if the behavioral changes of people who live in the houses can adjust to minimize this cost. Now the adjustments and amendments then to the recommendation for this project. Although this solution hasn't been tested to try, just like we stated in the blog 2 in the literature review, there are two factors that influence utility cost in a home. The one is endogenic, the other one is exogenic. And we approach this solution from an endogenic perspective. How can we reduce the cost from within the property? However, there are exogenic, that external factors that can affect utility costs, and one of them is the government regulation and the tariff from the supplier. So even if you imply the limitation now, we're saying that even if you adopt this solution, it's possible that government regulations could change or the tariff from suppliers could increase, and then it might create a feel that this solution is not very effective. But that's not a worry, because even if you don't implement the solution and then the regulations increase the cost, it's going to even get worse. So, but now this solution is still valid, although there are these limitations. Now there are no possible adjustments to be made upon the testing. However, during pilot scale, evaluation and improvement can be made if anyone is found. And then we recommend this solution for the clients to implement. And now here's an executive summary of what we've been doing so far with the client. We've said that the purpose is to minimize costs for all the properties managed for the client, and then we approach the solution with a behavioral adjustment change, which is by implementing video instruction to occupant and by putting stickers on appliances and on switches around the houses in a very conspicuous manner, of course. And then, we've also said, one of the things that we've done here is to test the solution, which shows that over 80% of people confirm that the solution is viable, and then up to 50 pounds can be saved per household per month. And one important note, like we've just said previously now, is that this solution has limitations based on government regulation, and then the tariff from utility suppliers, and then the solution has been recommended. So what are the next steps for the client? If the client wants to adopt this solution, the next step is to run a pilot scale. And what that means is that they pick 1 or 2 houses that they manage and implement this solution in a very controlled manner, such a way that they want to see if it works. So they monitor it over a over a contract period. The process that can be followed, they can follow this process. It's already, the client has access to this. They can script the energy saving instruction, print posters, make the videos, and then implement it as instructed. And then they can go ahead to evaluate and review, go ahead to evaluate, review the solution, and then, make improvements where necessary, and then fully implement it on the houses. and then continue to monitor for possible improvements. Now here is the client feedback in written format. Just a quick read of the client feedback and a quick summary of the client feedback. The client was grateful for this work, and the client believes that this work will have possible impact, good impact on the problem if implemented. Although the client also stated that although there was an initial choice to work on something else, however, there was some limitation around that situation which the client admitted and it was sorry for, and had to we had to work on something also pressing in the organization. So I've learned some key lessons while working with while in this process. I got this client from a networking situation, so I learned that networking is very key. So if I didn't network, I wouldn't have gotten. So networking is very key for the consultant. Time management as well is very key. I've learned it very strongly in this process. Time management is very important, which means that I need to manage time well. Project plan is also very important, although there's some issues that sometimes the Gantt chart at some point that was having issues following it. But if there was no plan, there was no structure, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, block 1, block 2, block 3, block 4, there would be some sort of hiccup to finalize to achieve this project. The adaptable communication. From the start, it was very difficult to communicate with the client, but then, I learned now very strongly that you need to find what works for each client, and then research skills that led up to some of the findings. My personal reflection throughout this journey, throughout this journey, there have been some moments of reflection I had to undergo. Now, I just want to talk about them based on the Gibbs reflective circle structure. But just to say that throughout the journey, I had some issues. One of which is the client engagement. It was difficult to get hold of the client at some point, and then the scope was not very clear from the beginning because the client wanted quite a number of things. So I learned through at first, from the start, it was very frustrating not to get to talk with you. I tried to reach the client, but it was hard to lay hold on the client. You try to reach. So what I did over time is what I learned over time from that process is, I had to ask for somebody that's a contact person, and as well, somebody that I can reach that is accessible to the manager of Eminent Estate, and then that's worked quite nicely. This project has taught me quite a lot, both in time management and also in project implementation, project scheduling, and carrying out all the tasks and inform and researching. And I feel very confident and motivated to take more of this kind of task going forward. Here are my references, and thank you very much.